This is Daniel Hutchins, and today I want to do a special article from Screen Rant. So we are doing a Screen Rant discussion. Today's Screen Rant discussion, we are talking about a Marvel theory, how WandaVision can make Magneto Scarlet Witch's father. Marvel already told Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver's origin story, but Marvel could retcon Magneto into being their real father in WandaVision. Okay. Now, despite the fact that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver's origin story has already been told in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a retcon in WandaVision could make Magneto their real father for obvious reasons. The Master of Magnetism had to be left out of their backstory when Avengers Age of Ultron explored the history of Wanda, Elizabeth Olsen, and Pietro Maximoff, Aaron Taylor Johnson, but it's possible that Magneto can still be a part of their past in the MCU. Now let me just tell you a little bit about that. Okay, so for decades, Magneto was depicted as the father of the two mutant Avengers in Marvel Comics. But since the character's movie rights belonged to 20th Century Fox, Marvel Studios had to go into a different direction when diving into their past in Age of Ultron. Makes sense, right? Yeah. So at the time, there was no expectation that Marvel would ever be able to use him in a story with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. However, the situation is different now that Disney has acquired 20th Century Fox, and along with it the film rights to both the XMen and the Fantastic Four, as we have mentioned before. There is no official word on what Marvel plans to do with Marvel's Merry Mutants, or exactly when the MCU will start making use of these characters, but Marvel and Disney could be saving Cyclops, Wolverine, Jean Grey, Beast, and all the rest of the X-Men movie in Phase 5 or later. Or could start laying the groundwork for a team by introducing individual characters in Phase 4. For instance, Storm could be in Black Panther 2, or Wolverine could have a cameo in Falcon and Winter Soldier. But there's another possibility, is that the Marvel's second Disney Plus series, WandaVision, will use Magneto and rewrite Scarlet Witch's MCU Origin. Which will be pretty cool though, if you gotta admit. But then Scarlet Witch's origin story in Marvel Comics. Okay. So in Marvel Comics, there are 3 different versions of the story in which Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were brought into the world. Born in a small village in Eastern Europe, the 2 mutants were raised by 2 gypsies named Django and Maria Maximoff, who had lost their own twin children years ago. Django came to believe that Pietro and Wanda were his real children and decided to seek them out. But in the 1980s, Marvel dropped a bombshell on readers with the reveal that their father wasn't Django. It was actually their former master Magneto. Magneto's lover became separated from him years ago, causing her to be alone when she gave birth on the peak of mutant Wandagore. The evil energy emanating from the demon that lived within the mountain was supposedly responsible for all the power that now dwells within Wanda. But then Magneto was oblivious to this until he spoke with Wanda and Pietro's caretaker, Bova, who lived on Mount Wandagore. Okay. So then, Magneto had used them as pawns in his schemes for years, but as it turned out, their connection was closer than anyone ever expected. This also explained why Quicksilver was drawn to look smaller than Magneto. Until just a few years ago, this was accepted origin story for Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. But just in time for the release of Avengers Age of Ultron, Marvel frustrated the fans by taking back everything it had previously said about Magneto, Wanda, and Magda in regards to Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver, and stating that Django and Maria were their real parents after all. And to sever all ties between them and the X-Men, Marvel also established that Wanda and Pedro were never mutants in the first place. Instead, their powers came from experiments conducted by the High Evolutionary Marvel, effectively wrote Magneto out of Wanda and Pedro's lives, but erasing only 30 years of stories, some of which hinging on two being mutants and Magneto being their father hasn't been so easy. But many have disliked that change, arguing that it was only done to keep the comics in line with the movies. Because of this, the 1980 origin with Magneto remains the most popular version of their story. Now, to see what happened to Scarlet Witch's parents in the MCU. Avengers Age of Ultron doesn't feature Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver's parents, but they were alluded to in the movie. The MCU's Pedro and Wanda had a normal family life growing up in Sokovia. But it came to a tragic end when their home was destroyed by a mortal shield manufactured by Tony Stark's company. Pedro and Wanda survived, but both their parents died in an explosion. But as a result, the twins developed a deep-seated hatred of Stark. As the years passed, their resentment toward him and the Avengers motivated them into taking part in experiments engineered by Hydra. Scientist Baron von Strucker oversaw a project that imbued the two with superpowers courtesy from the Mind Stone from Loki's scepter. Okay. How Marvel can still make Magneto Scarlet Witch's father in the MCU. Okay. The answer to that is Marvel may have already provided Wanda and Pedro with a complete backstory in the MCU, but it's not so rock solid that it can't be changed or adjusted. When Scarlet Witch's original origin demonstrated how Marvel can easily retcon a character in movies as well. Audiences would know that the twins had a family in Sokovia, but it's possible that they were adopted. There's no concrete evidence that the parents mentioned in Age of Ultron or their biological mother and father, as previously noted. The comic book versions of Wanda and Pedro grew up with misunderstandings about their family as well. An obvious problem that would come with Marvel suddenly revealing that Magneto and Magda are their real parents and that Age of Ultron offered a completely different explanation for Wanda and Pedro's powers. In the 1980s, the understanding was that they inherited Magneto's mutant genes, but the MCU characters received their powers from Hydra's experiments instead. Marvel could retcon this by suggesting that the Mind Stone simply awakened their true potential. Marvel is about to make changes to her powers anyway in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and her mutant and magical abilities could have been suppressed somehow when they were children, but furthermore, making Wanda Maximoff a mutant in the MCU is just one more way that Marvel can transform Scarlet Witch into her classic comic book counterparts. But how could this revelation come out in WandaVision? Marvel has a tendency to shock audiences with unexpected guest appearances in their movies, and the same could apply to this upcoming Disney Plus show. Magneto could appear in a cameo as WandaVision's mystery guest character, the Master of Magnetism, most likely without his iconic costume and helmet, could either appear in person, or an entirely new character could be the one who sheds light on Wanda's past, since it looks like WandaVision may be dealing with alternate realities. One of these worlds could offer those answers. There could be a timeline or reality where Wanda's family situation is quite different than it seems. Alternatively, the father of Evan Peters Quicksilver in Fox's X-Men movies was always presumed as Magneto. So if theories about Peters playing Fox's Quicksilver in WandaVision are true, it could be mentioned when he appears. So there you go, guys. That's just a little bit of information. Some Marvel fan theories on how WandaVision can make Magneto Scarlet Witch's father. So, we're like 11 minutes in. In case you guys didn't know, I tried to do a Marvel check-in video yesterday, but my video had suddenly stopped working yesterday, so like after 35 seconds in, my video that I was supposed to post yesterday ended up getting removed. But have no fear, there will be more Marvel Insider check-ins, perhaps this weekend or next week, and maybe some other article discussions as well. So keep your eyes out for those videos then, and make sure if you like my content, hit a like and a subscribe. Thanks, and you guys have a nice day. Bye.